thought my mic was down the side. I'm finally live. Let's go. So this video, well, live stream. If you're watching on YouTube, this will be a video on my YouTube channel. But this video is going to be about if you should get a tarantula, how to take care of one, and to see which tarantula would fit your home and environment. So yeah, we're gonna do that today, which I think is going to be pretty cool. Get some information out there. I myself only own one tarantula, so I don't know every single species out there. I'm still a beginner, but I know a lot of species that have their own natural kind of taking care of ways. Like with my tarantula, which I have right here, I own a Brazilian black, which is one of the most, well, not one of the most, but one of the most, not one of the most, but one of the most, it's one of the beginner tarantulas, but it's not exactly a beginner tarantula depending on, how aggressive it can be, because yes, they are New Worlds, so they're not as aggressive, they're not usually to bite or to bicker with you, they're not usually to storm out of their enclosure or bite you, anything like that. Their first instinct is to hide. Whenever they feel threatened, it is to hide. Go check, make sure my mic is working. Yeah, it's working. Okay, that's good. Let me just put that back in now. There we go. Just had to do that real quickly. So what I'm going to talk about today is just Brazilian, not Brazilian. Yeah, Brazilian blacks. What am I doing? I'm going to talk about Brazilian blacks right now as a current. I'll talk about other tarantulas as well, but right now I'm going to be talking about Brazilian blacks in general because I own a Brazilian black. And what I've known so far is when I first got my tarantula, which is called Asterix, I took care of her and I put her into what she came in. And I got her from, I think, the can't remember actually. It was the spider shop, I think I got it from. She was heavily expensive. Hi, hello, how you doing? But we got her, and she's still a sling, but she's growing very greatly. It's been great. The thing is with Brazilian blacks, if you're thinking about getting one, there is always a chance that, yes, a species is supposed to be a docile species. They're supposed to think about running away first and all that kind of stuff. They're not supposed to be very attacking or aggressive. But there is a possible chance with that personality that they come with, it's possible that you could get a tarantula that thinks about attacking beforehand. Just a natural instinct of that personality. So with every tarantula that you may get, it is possible that their personality just might be different from what their species nation is. And that's okay. I mean, you can work with it. It's still the same species, still the same caribou treatment. Just gotta be careful of that personality, and that's just kind of something you gotta work with because that's all we have to work with in the human world. So yeah, for Brazilian black, they require not even a lot of water. I live in the UK, and she is from South America, if I can remember correctly. So used to not a lot of water, but of course, because I live in the UK, it's very rainy here. So it's probably really cold and all that kind of stuff. So you would naturally think you would need a heater or something to keep them warm. Ideally, yes. If you live in a very cold environment, like the UK or somewhere colder, you would naturally need some sort of heat coming from somewhere. I wouldn't exactly say a heat pad, because heat pads are quite unnecessary. A lot of people who are in the tarantula community don't use heat pads. They're quite unrecommended. They're quite unrecommended. There you go. And so that's why you'll see a lot of people just having their enclosures out. But naturally, you would have heaters in your house. So if you have one in your room or in your tarantula room or anything of the sort, just make sure that it's mostly on most of the time, but not too hot. You don't want to cook your tarantula. The most important thing is if you have it too high, that's the risk. If you have it too low, it's not that much of a risk because for some reason tarantulas can be in a pretty decently cold room, but not overly cold, and that's the problem. But if you put them in a somewhat hot room, that's the danger. That's the danger that comes with it. For a sling, I would just, for the water, I wouldn't put a lid or a bowl or anything of the sort in there, because it's quite dangerous. They could drown themselves, and that's not quite ideal. I never did that with my sling. I did it with her with a very, very thin lid, but again, I took it out eventually. It was taking so much of the room up, and so I took it out. It was very, very big. It was big, but very thin, so it was fine. She wasn't drown herself in it, but I did take it out eventually because it was just too big. Now I've kind of got to the point where I just kind of like spraying down the enclosure. With the Brazilian black, of course, it depends upon your humidity, what goes on that day, if it was raining that day, if it was really hot that day. But with the Brazilian black, you don't typically have to water them very much. I'm talking about it as it is a plant, but you get the idea because it kind of is like a plant. But yeah, you don't have to water them down very much. What I would just say is grab a spray bottle, because spray bottles help definitely in these times. So just grab a spray bottle, like spray the sides of the enclosure, but make sure you do not actually spray the tarantula itself. That's a main big no-no, because that can just frighten it, and that anxiety from the tarantula may cause it to bolt or attack or anything of the sort like that. You just don't want to cause the tarantula any stress, because that's just not a good idea. For us humans, it isn't a good idea, so why is it for them? So yeah. Also, for those who don't have spray bottles, you can ideally just grab some water in a cup. Make sure the tarantula's on the other side of where you're pouring it. Pour it down into a corner, half fill it, and then use the rest of what's in the cup into another corner. And hopefully that would, depending upon the substrate, that would go through the bottom, and it would go through the bottom, and so that way, where the tarantula digs down, depending upon the tarantula, if it does dig down, will get to that moist substrate, which will help it cool down, which is a great idea. I've seen a lot of people do that. I personally have never done that. I think I've done that once, and that was in the last live stream, so yeah, that's what I did. It was quite scary because I scared my tarantula. But yeah, you just gotta make sure you're careful when you do it, because it's obviously a big risk. You don't want to drown the tarantula, and you have to be careful that you're not that when you do it, your tarantula doesn't go into its hide, and then while watering the hide, you end up killing the tarantula. So that's probably another reason as well. What else am I going to talk about? Yes, food. Now for food, food can be quite different things. Crickets are quite recommended for slings, definitely for slings, because they're just very small. There are other things that you can use, obviously, that are small and easy to use and easy to get around. Crickets, they don't tend to live very long in captivity. They are a pain in the butt, and many tarantula keepers hate them because they have to keep getting them each time, and they never stay alive. They do eventually die off in captivity. They stay about at least, I think, 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, and it's quite difficult because where you get them from, you have to make sure that it's not at an expensive price, because they're going to eventually die off anyhow, and you have to make sure that you have the actual utensils, home environment for them. Now, what I have for my crickets is I have a big storage box, big enough so they can't jump out of it, but I also have a lid there. And what I do is I have carton eggs on top of carton eggs on top of carton eggs, so it's got like 3 levels. And next to it, there's a food bowl. They can just jump in and out of that. I don't really mind. It's got little carvings on the sides, so you can probably just walk up it anyway. And they can get that, and they can get the food. It keeps food from getting around the other enclosures, and the cardboard themselves, because if you get the cardboard, well, the egg cartons themselves, all mucky and gruffy, you'll have to take them out because they'll just eat off of that and they'll kill them because it's just leftover food. It's gonna rot eventually, and then there you go. That's just how it goes. So I would definitely recommend, if you're getting any sort of prey to feed your tarantulas, to give them a food bowl that they make sure they can get inside of it. But a food bowl is definitely ideal because you don't want that food to suddenly go all around the enclosure. I've had that before, and I've had to literally clean it out the entire time, and I lost one cockroach to that. Thank God it was just one cockroach. I have about 30 plus in a container. They're doing quite happy. So the main thing you need for crickets is just some curtain eggs. Put enough in there so they can have hiding spots. Just give them some food. What I feed my crickets on is oranges, just one orange, and I plop it up into fours. So they can have that throughout the week, and then when the week is over, I take it out, I replace it, and you could definitely tell their progress because they're still kicking. I don't remove the dead bodies because a lot of cricket keepers would tell you to every day remove dead remains of crickets because obviously they will die in captivity and they end up dying, and some end up lasting longer than them, and so it's just best to remove them. But me, I don't do that. It's too picky, it's too hindrance, I can't be bothered with it, so I just let them be in there, and they do quite fine. But what I will say is, when you have your lot of crickets and you have no more, I would definitely say give it a good clean out before you order any more. That way when you order more, it'll be all nice and clean, nothing to worry about. And for cockroaches are one of the second best things for tarantulas, which are for adults mostly, or a tarantula that is maturing in a sense. And so with them, it's basically the same principle, but with cockroaches, you need to put them in the dark. I'm not sure about all cockroaches because I only have one species of cockroaches, and that is deli roaches. And I've had them for quite a while now. I got them from a website online that I cannot remember by any means. And their care is very simple, just like crickets. Their care is very simple. I forgot to mention that with crickets, you do need a sponge. They can't just suck up water, they'll end up killing themselves. You can't just put a water bowl in there. So what you do is you'll grab a sponge and you'll put water on that sponge. What I would do is I'd put it under the tap. I would give it a good squeeze and all that kind of stuff, just so that it's packed in there, and that way it's not gonna flood or anything when I put it down, like all the water drips out of it. So I give it a good squeeze beforehand. I put it back in there, and they do seem to be pretty fine. But what I would do, because what I found out to keep them alive a bit longer is that they need a little bit extra moisture. So what I did with their food is I put the oranges in a sandwich bag, and I would put water in there with it. I would let the water be with the oranges and just let them rinse through and stuff like that, and then I would give it to them. So they would have freshly watered down oranges, which seems ideal, you know. They seem to be doing pretty fine with it, so why not? And same thing with my cockroaches as well, but I don't give them any water. They get it from their food. That's the main thing I've learned from that. I don't know anyone who gives actual, like, a water bowl or anything like that to cockroaches. I don't know anything like that. They get it from their food, so if you've got to feed them really liquidy substance, like, let's say, a watermelon or a pumpkin. Pumpkin isn't exactly liquefied, but it is definitely very good for them. I feed mine oranges because it's the most simple thing I have around my house, and it definitely gives them that moisture that they need. And they've been fine living on it. I've only had one death, and that was when all the food went mucky, and I didn't have a food bowl back then. So it just went all the way around, and it was absolutely horrible and nasty. So yeah. So if you're looking for any other prey ideas or anything like that. I don't know any others. I don't know the crickets and the cockroaches, as they both have them. Crickets are hard to catch when you're trying to feed your tarantula, but eventually you will get them. Ideally, you would need one of these, which is a tongue. These are called tongues. And you would use these to pick up the cricket or the cockroach, and you would then give it to your tarantula. This is so you don't get bit by your tarantula, because depending upon your tarantula, it sees food as food, and it may see your hand as food. So you would technically, if I get my tarantula, I've had on the side here, technically you would grab the prey, and then you would drop it in, and then you put the lid back on, and you go on about your day. And so that was just so you don't end up getting bitten, because yes, your tarantula may be a new world or anything like that, or very docile. You don't want to risk it, because especially losing your tarantula is definitely a major no-no. So tongues are definitely recommended. I got mine from Amazon. I got a bamboo pair and these, and they're really nice. So I the first pair I've ever had, and I absolutely love them. So they work really well. I would definitely not recommend feeding with your hands. That is a bad idea. I don't know why you would do that. You're very brave if you're doing that. But yeah. So another thing I want to mention is with all tarantulas, there are different species. Different species require different care and different home environments. Of course, if you're living in like South America, where it's hot, you would technically need to spray down that enclosure probably twice to 3 weeks every single day. Not every single day, but twice to 3 weeks, and give it a good spray. And just do what I said, like spray around the sides with your spray bottle, or do what I did with the cup idea, because it will definitely help that tarantula. You need to make sure that depending upon the environment and what that tarantula needs, that it gets what it needs. It's very, very important, and it keeps it very healthy. And also, I would recommend feeding your sling once a week, at least a baby cricket or something else, or something to baby wise. That way it doesn't grow up too fast, and that way you're taking it slowly and taking it with pace, and you're not rushing yourselves with it. Obviously, if you're experienced, you know what to do. For people who are beginners, I would definitely recommend doing that, because it's definitely scary when your tarantula starts growing up really fast. So you want to make sure you spend time with the tarantula being small as it is, and then slowly, gradually growing up, and then you get used to it more. So that's what I've been dealing with. I mean, my tarantula, she's so sweet, she's absolutely adorable. I mean, I trust her so much because I've given her time to grow up. I've given her time to molt. I've given her time for everything, and so that's why I have so much of a bond with her, because I understand her. And she may be a sling, but I understand her personality so much more because I've given her time, and it's just a great way of dealing with it. So yeah, if you think that's a good idea to do, then I definitely do. So if you think that, and if you do that, please do let me know and see how it turns out for you, because I really want to know, because it worked out great for me, and I'm probably going to do it for the rest of my tarantulas as well. The next tarantula I'm thinking about getting is, I can't remember the species name, but it has like a heart on the butt. I really am looking forward to getting that, but I want to look and see if I can take care of my first tarantula first, see how that goes, and if it goes pretty well, then I'll definitely get that one. But right now, I'm a first beginner, got one tarantula, and that one tarantula is my priority, so I have to make sure I take care of it. But yeah, even though I'm a first beginner, I do know a lot about tarantulas. I watch a lot of tarantula videos. I try and make sure I'm educated about a lot of things before I get into new tarantulas, because you want to make sure you're educated. If you see a tarantula you like and like, oh, that's really nice, don't immediately just buy it. You have to go through a whole manual of things. You have to check their care facilities, because even if you're getting it from a certified buyer, that tarantula could have issues with it, which is fine if you can take care of it. If you can't take care of it, then that's the problem. If you're getting a male, typically males live a lot less than females, and they need to be in a much smaller environment than females, because they end up wearing themselves out a lot more. And that's why females are technically recommended and wanted more than males. And that's nothing against the males, it's just the better qualities you get with a female. And yes, so many males are wanted in the community, so many people have males, so many people just use males for breeds, and that's okay. Long as the tarantula is being well looked after, being taken care of, loved, it's all good. And so when you're dealing with a male, you want to make sure you give it the absolute gratitude, because as it gets older, it will start to wear down. It will the attack and prey when you give it food. It won't take it as quickly as you think, and that's why kind of reason why, as it matures, you kind of need to pre-kill the prey, help it get along, because males are just they're just typically needing a little bit extra help, and that's all. And that's okay, helping the male out is fine. But obviously with the female tarantulas, you don't need to help them much at all, because they will take the prey just how it is. But of course, there are possibilities where you find a tarantula with one leg or anything like that. And so that's why you have to be careful with where you buy them from or anything like that, because it's just, you have to make sure that you can take care of the tarantula before you commit to it. If there anything wrong with that tarantula, you have to make sure that you can take care of it and know about it beforehand. Because if you get a tarantula that's sick and you don't know how to take care of it, you weren't aware of that tarantula being sick, then it's probably a rare risk. And you don't want that risk for that tarantula, because it's very, very dangerous. And knowing that a tarantula can just be in a risk just because you weren't knowingly of it is absolutely horrible. So yeah, I would definitely do your research. Make sure you ask the person where you're buying it from, like, hey, is this tarantula good? Is it healthy? And of course, if the person lies and finds out that the tarantula is actually sick, you can probably just get your money back and keep the tarantula. If they refuse, well, you can probably sue them for that. I don't know. That goes much deeper than I know, but definitely make sure the tarantula health comes way before anything else. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the live stream. Yes, this is a live stream for those who are watching on YouTube. I'm doing the live stream right now. For those who are watching on YouTube, actually, if you do want to join in on the live streams, you can go down to the link in the description. There'll be a link to a Facebook group where we do our live streams, and we do them every single day on Fridays at 3 p.m. UK time. This is where we have tarantula discussions. I talk about my tarantulas. I talk about how we take care of them and all that good stuff. Just help the community get along, and it'll be all good. I'm slowly thinking about doing them on YouTube as well, because obviously it might be a little bit easier on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure, but I have this entire community on Facebook, so it's been pretty good. So yeah, anything else that I want to explain before I end the live stream? Caring for a tarantula is pretty simple depending upon the species. You have to be careful upon the species because one can be poisonous. It is possible. And I wouldn't recommend getting any like special surprise packs of tarantulas, because if you don't know that species, then you're not gonna know how to take care of it. Unless you do quick research and then be like, yes, that's what I need. That's what I need. That'll be requiring a lot of quick research, but that's if you're able to read the label that it comes with. Because sometimes keeper's handwriting is so like absolutely too fancy to read, and sometimes it can be really bad to read, so there's also an issue with that. So you have to make sure that you're doing it carefully, and you make sure you know enough species that when you get a surprise tarantula pack from any online store that does them, you have to make sure that you probably most likely will know the tarantula. And that's just a great way of life if you do that. It keeps the tarantula safe. It keeps your heart from breaking, from ending up with a deceased tarantula. So yeah, it's just the best method. Obviously, I own more than just tarantulas. I mean, I own a gerbil. I own a cat as well. So I know a lot of animals. I know a lot of things like that. But tarantulas are one of my new topics I'm getting about, and tarantulas are very, very adorable. Obviously, if you're afraid of tarantulas and want to slowly get into the hobby of getting tarantulas, I would definitely recommend starting with spiders. Wild spiders, just wild spiders. Because what I did was I started catching wild spiders. Because like, way back, I used to be actually really terrified of a single spider, no matter how small it was, being in my room. And that's kind of like the one thing you need to get over is, yes, there's a spider in your room. But if you had a tarantula in your room anyhow, when you had one, how is that going to change anything if you're already afraid of one single spider being in your room? So that's kind of something you need to work on. You need to work on accepting that there's a spider in your room. And then the next process is removing it out of your room. Which is one of the tactics of dealing with a tarantula as well, because when you want that tarantula to move, you have to move it yourself. There's ways of moving a tarantula. You could use the tongue method, which many of the people use for their tarantulas who have a lot of faith in them, not to run away, not to bolt or anything. So you would gently just, this is like the tarantula here, and then you would gently just move their butt, and they would kind of go towards it as well. Of course, there's another method where you can use a cup, a big enough cup that it isn't going to cut their legs off or anything like that. So you could quickly just cup them in, like, just go like that, cup them in it, and just move them around, and maybe get a piece of paper for the other side of the lid. That's technically how people do it. There's a lot of other methods as well that I probably don't know of right now, but that's the most two things I know of have had to remove a tarantula. I've seen a lot of videos about tarantulas escaping and stuff like that, so you have to be careful that you actually close your enclosure. For an enclosure, I would recommend an enclosure that opens very smoothly, that way, or taken out like that way. I definitely wouldn't recommend like a lid that you have to disconnect and then remove, because that's just tedious, and I have one of them and it's absolutely horrible. So I will eventually be getting my new enclosure for Asterix. This has been taking a long time because obviously it's from overseas, and with everything going on, everything is just delayed, and it sucks, but yeah, delayness is how it goes. Hopefully it should be arriving either the end of this month or the start of next month. And I can't wait for that, because obviously I want to see how the enclosure looks. I want to put Asterix in it. It'll be amazing. It'll be great. It'll be absolute grand. So yeah, I can't wait to do that, because it'll be absolutely amazing. Then you can see Asterix in her new enclosure. I'll be able to set it up and stuff. It does come with extra like fake plants and all those auxiliaries, so I will definitely be setting it up in a really neat looking area for you guys to see. I'll be doing it on live stream, and if I don't end up doing it on live stream, I'll probably just make a video of it, but either way, you guys will see it, because I want you guys to. Is there anything else that I need to address today? Don't think there is. I think that's pretty much all I've addressed right now. I mentioned crickets, I've mentioned cockroaches, I mentioned tarantulas. Yeah, tarantulas are pretty easy to take care of as long as you know what to do. And if you're not sure what to do or how to take care of them, or you have any questions of any sort, you can always ask in the group, you can always leave a comment on YouTube, or you can message me on Facebook. Either way, or you can join other groups for tarantula communities, and there's lots of information out there and a lot of people in the same hobby willing to help you. And I know there's a lot of people out there who kind of complain to beginners, who are saying like, oh, you're doing this wrong. There's a difference here between doing something wrong and being negative about it. If someone's doing something wrong, just simply kindly notify them that, hey, this is not the correct way. Here's a better idea. And that's the unfortunate part of the tarantula community. And all communities there's always going to be a bit of bad blood in those communities, and it's absolutely ridiculous, but it does happen. So yeah. Hopefully you'll enjoy being in this group and actually feel welcomed, and actually feel that you can ask for help in any way you need, because that's what I did, and I got the help that I needed with looking after my tarantula. It's been going great so far. I got my tarantula for my birthday. I'm now almost 18, and I'm wondering if I should get another tarantula for my birthday, but I think that should wait. I'm very tempted to get another tarantula, and I really want another tarantula, but I have to make sure that I look after my first tarantula and make sure that she's okay, because she's my first tarantula, and yes, she seems to be doing really, really great. I have to make sure that I keep her alive for a really, really long time, because females, they live to about 15 to probably max 20 years, where males, you get them for about 2 to 3 years after maturity, which really sucks, but that's kind of how it goes. Just make sure that your male is in like a really suitable area for itself, and then it'll live much longer. It'll get along a lot better. Can't guarantee the distance of the lifespan, but it will be alright. It will do better than usual. But yeah, that'll be it for this live stream. It's a bit shorter than usual because I haven't done a feeding. This was just talking about tarantulas, getting them out there, how to take care of one, how to love one, how to do the things you need to do with them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please do like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below on how you like this video, and see any more information that I needed to address or that I was wrong about, because I really want to make sure that all the information is correct. So if you're an experienced tarantula keeper, do leave them below, and I'll definitely pin the comment. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next week for an actual tarantula feeding. Yes, I'm going to be feeding my tarantulas twice. No, not twice a week. Every 2 weeks, which is just easier for my tarantula because I think she's in pre-molt, and I just want to make sure that she gradually gets the food that she needs. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been absolutely lovely, and I'll talk to you guys next week on Saturday, 3 p.m. UK time. See you guys. Bye.